And what is also for me saying is that rather than taking on the posture or the behavior of fear, that no, we want to be able to not take on it, but sometimes to stand in it and to face it. We have to go through it from a perspective of rather than avoiding it, don't, because he said before, don't be afraid. So if he's saying don't be afraid, which means sometimes we have to stand our ground, we have to use our voices and speak to that particular situation, and don't be afraid.
You just got to believe. Look ahead and you will see a new beginning.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kellie, Cadogan, vocal life coach, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you all that God has in store for you today on the Down to Earth podcast. Hello there, and on today's podcast, we are going to be looking at the part of the verse in Mark chapter 5, verse 36, which says, afraid. And I'll take you back to school. Let's go back to school and let's look out, where we were going through the parts of, is it the parts of speech? I really don't remember. Maybe I myself need to go back to school. But when we were talking about adjectives, what are adjectives? I know they're describing words. Would it be a part of speech is what? Verbs, nouns, adjectives, pronouns, adverbs, and those are parts of speech. If correct, message me and let me know in the comments that I'm correct, that an adjective is a part of speech. It's really interesting though. This is just a little bit of a side topic that it's only after having traveling with my daughter and going through her schoolwork and all that kind of stuff that I started to experience wait though. I don't even really remember what a lot of the context of these things are. I just know how to do them. I just know how to speak and how to talk, right? But it's only by having younger people around me and having Rayna especially around me that I started to realize, oh, that's what that is. Oh, and these are all the rules as it relates to English language. So we are looking at the word fear with relation to it being an adjective. So that's why I say we're going to go back to school a little bit. And clearly, I had to go back to school too. But nonetheless, let's continue. Now, fear is natural, and its purpose is arising in the presence of an anticipation of danger, moving to its avoidance. You kind of want to move away from stuff, right? It is also awakened in the presence of superiors and of striking manifestations of power, etc., and taking the form of awe or reverence. And when we hear the definition of fear within the context of awe and reverence, it brings us directly to holy fear. And we would have spoken about that previously in another episode. And when we think about holy fear, that specifically is attributed to the fear of the Lord, right? However, fear in this particular context, we're looking at Mark chapter 5, verse 36, where we are speaking about where Jesus says to Jairus, don't be afraid, just believe, because our overall theme for this particular part of the episode is believe. And fear in this particular context is associated not with holy fear, but it is associated with a present threat. So, what I want to do now is just to take you guys through a little bit the difference between fear and anxiety. Now, fear is a present threat. However, anxiety is a future threat. So sometimes we can experience fear, right? Because it's a present threat, and the anxiety is a future threat. So let me just take you a little deeper into what anxiety is. So, anxiety is an emotion characterized by an unpleasant state of inner turmoil and includes feelings of dread over anticipated events. Anxiety is different from fear in that fear is defined as the emotional response to a present threat, whereas anxiety is the anticipation of a future threat. So I'll say that again. The anxiety is different from fear in that fear is defined as the emotional response to a present threat, whereas anxiety is the anticipation of a future one. And Jesus is saying, don't be afraid. Do not take on the action or the behavior of fear, right? And what is also for me saying is that rather than to taking on the posture or the behavior of fear, that no, we want to be able to not take on it, but sometimes to stand in it and to face it. We have to go through it from a perspective of rather than avoiding it, don't, because he said before, don't be afraid. So if he's saying don't be afraid, which means sometimes we have to stand our ground, we have to use our voices and speak to that particular situation and don't be afraid. Now, one of the things I want to share with you is an experience I had years ago with a situation. Somebody had called me, I was teaching a class, and at that particular point in my life, I had some real issues with esteem, my self-esteem, and I was experiencing things like anxiety, and I'm thinking about things that will happen, and I will just start to get very, very, very anxious. And I remember getting a call, and the call that came through, it was another person on the line telling me about something that she wasn't going to do. And I just, I was so weak at that time that the entire situation just riddled me with fear in a way that I couldn't breathe properly. I felt it through my entire body. I couldn't breathe properly. I was shaking, I was trembling. And the only thing that I was able to do in that particular instance, because it felt like, my ear was all blocked off, the only thing I could do in that particular moment was to sit and be still, number one. But I also had to go back to what it is I knew with relation to breathing. I had to be able to sit, be still, and focus in on breathing exercises to calm myself down, to calm it. And sometimes it speaks here about um the avoidance, right? If you want to avoid it, sometimes being in the particular situation, we have to stay in it and approach it from a different perspective, which is in that particular case was to breathe through it, to get my thinking, to get my heart rate and everything back down to the point where I could be telling myself, you can get this particular thing done. There's no need to fear. Don't be afraid. And many times you may find yourself in situations. We've been talking about the power of the voice and using the voice to speak, and the heart and the mind and the voice connection. And many times you yourself may be finding yourself where you want to you don't want to avoid, you want to face the particular thing you're experiencing, but every single time you're thinking about that potential threat, which is the anxiety, is starting to happen within you, right? It's an emotional response, and as a result of that, you may not want to move forward in that particular circumstance because of what you are experiencing, and maybe the fear you're experiencing or anticipation of the threat that is to come. I want to encourage you today, when you are in those particular circumstances, when you know that the conversation that you're going to have, while it might be difficult, may cause you not to feel comfortable. I encourage you to focus in on breathing. Breathing. Remember that I didn't give you the breath, and nobody else gave you the breath. God gave you the breath. Jesus gave you the breath. And once we start to use that and regulate it in a positive manner, it is going to help you to be able to come to the point where you can actually start dealing with some of these situations that you are encountering. So, taking the breath and thinking about what God is saying, where He says, don't be afraid, just believe. Don't be afraid, just believe. And I trust that in this particular um section where we are focusing in on the element of being afraid, that it will help you to realize that God has given us the authority to be able to trample over snakes and scorpions and to overcome the power of the enemy. So I just want to remind you that when you are facing, you may be feeling like, no, it's fine. I don't, it doesn't matter the extent to wherever you feel the fear or the anxiety. Once your emotional response to that present threat, right? Once you are experiencing that, you can use the tools of breathing to help you to be able to get to a point where you are not operating in the place of fear. So when Jesus says to us, don't be afraid, just believe, we need to believe him and we need to start actioning what he has said. So I hope that this is an encouragement for you today. And remember to share this material if you found that it helps you, or if you might know somebody that may, you know what, this may actually benefit that person. I think that's how we help each other, and that's how we support and we build relationships, by being able to share it on with somebody else who you think can benefit from it. So I thank you so much for being with us again for another season of the Down to Earth podcast. I'm looking forward to sharing with you again soon. Bye-bye.
As the day turns into night and you're by yourself and you feel like there's no other way than to hide, think that you have tried